Usual, I have several pages of show notes that we're going to discuss, but in order of importance, let's talk about Warren H. and the fact that Warren is coming home and then to the Philippines, baby. So the primary factor and the reason that Warren is coming home is because Warren is in a cancer ward, as we all know and are completely well aware of. And what determines whether or not you have cancer is a count in your blood, and the normal count for that blood would be somewhere between 6 and 10 parts per million. And Warren's was up over 100 for a very long time. And then a few months ago, the count in that part of Warren's blood went down to 94. Then recently, about 2 weeks ago, Warren informed me that his cancer cell count was down to 74. So it's going down, and it had gone down 25% or thereabouts. And then last week, Warren informed me that the cancer cell count was down to 66. So for those of you who, and like myself, don't understand how that works, just understand that his cancer is now being controlled with the chemotherapy. And the fact that Warren is in the hospital and has been there, the last time he made mention in a video, I do believe it was 184 days. So Warren is not making this stuff up, as you might have heard from some of the more or less famous bloggers on YouTube. Welcome, Honeyco Baby, and welcome, I see another Thomas Group, a member of my Patreon account. Thank you for stopping by. We have a good show coming up, Thomas. I'm going to explain the new computer that I was in the city of Tagbilaran with yesterday after I finished with Warren. So one of the things that Warren is going to do when he gets home is he's going to relax a little bit, and his therapies will keep on moving forward. And eventually the plan is for Warren to come to the Philippines to pick out the actual furniture and kitchen sinks and bathroom fixtures for his second floor of the hotel, which is going to be called, of course, the Warren H. Pavilion. Hold on a second. I got one of those random wild hairs in my nose. So one of the things that Warren is going to do is pick out the fixtures and the sinks and the cabinets for his second floor living quarters in the Philippines. Another thing that Warren is going to do is, he might participate in some more activities that I won't talk about here on YouTube. So let's all give Warren, when you see him or go to his channel, Warren H., some love, and tell him that we're thinking about him. I can mark you present, Big E, so I can keep my perfect church attendance. Well, the Big E is not only just a friend of mine who we've become quite close friends with over the last several weeks, but he's also going to be working with myself and Warren to build the Church of Christians Plus. And now the land is being cleared of tree debris and weeds and vines. The plans that were originally meant for a church building are being modified to add a steeple and a bell tower and a spire, one of those vertical posts that you see in front of at St. Peter's in the Vatican, and you'll see them in Washington. One of those vertical posts. It's a very old symbol, symbolizes the old world So what we're going to do is we're going to have, we were originally just going to go for the underworld dating services in the Church of Christians Plus. But recently I became aware of not just the need for the dating services and to bring people together from America and or Europe and England to the Philippines, but I also became aware of pretty much something that I've been doing for years and years, and that is marriage counseling. So I will be doing marriage counseling or breaking up with your Filipina girlfriend and how to cope with breaking up, as if there was something to cope with. It's just a necessary part of life to move on to the next step. But apparently there's a lot of simple people out there that believe what happened yesterday determines the future. That's not true. You determine what your future is. So if you were in a relationship with a Filipina, or even if you were married, I remember when I was 19 years old, I broke up with my first girlfriend, my first real girlfriend, and I was distraught for a couple of months, and then we became friends, and we're still friends to this day. But I remember she eventually went out with a guy named Dondi Farazzoli, Dondi, D-O-N-D-I. And Dondi and I were close friends, but I mean, looking back, it was just puppy love. But I see this trend occurring on YouTube. People that go out with someone for a period of time, and then they for whatever reasons, they decide to go their separate ways, or one person decides to go their separate ways. Well, from a philosophical point of view, or from a Zen Buddhist point of view, there's a saying, the saying goes, things appear and things disappear. Or another Zen saying, and this too shall pass. So if you're going to let it affect you for years and years, or months and months, or even weeks and weeks, this could destroy some part of your life for no necessary reason. So what we're going to do is we're going to have not a Zendo, but like a form of Zen Buddhist meditation to help people in current relationships or past relationships realize that there's really nothing that can be done. It's that in America they call it the writing pen. Having written moves on. Well, that's what life should be. And we're going to teach these little philosophies in the Church of Christians Plus and try to make people understand that there's really no reason to be upset about the past. And if you keep letting the past interfere with what you're doing today, you won't get anything done today. So we have, check out the Rileys, the man himself. Well, welcome to the machine. Check out the Rileys. So we should note that Honeyco Baby has a channel that she programs from where she lives in Asia. I think it's Dubai. And check out the Rileys. They live in the Philippines, baby. And Mr. Riley, Bill, he has a little gimmick that I really, really, really like. He has this wig, this multicolored wig that I really enjoy. Warren H. has an orange wig. Mr. Riley has a multicolored wig. And I looked for one of those in the store the other day. I think they'd go perfect with my glasses. But so Mr. Riley and Mrs. Riley, who live in the Philippines and blog from the Philippines, have a pretty cool channel. You might want to check them out, and Honeyco Baby, as well as Thomas Grube, who has Thomas Grube. He has a house to die for. Thomas Grube's house. He has an amazingly beautiful house overlooking the ocean from high up on a plateau, and then he has a perfectly manicured backyard. Now, I like that because I used to be a landscaper. And at one time in the history of my house in Florida, which I planted 59 trees and bushes on. I used to keep it perfectly manicured, but it's just too much work. And but Thomas Grube, apparently Thomas is out there every day with a pair of scissors trimming the trees. So Thomas Grube has a channel, and he's got an amazingly beautiful, big, spacious kitchen. So he's another person that you might want to check out. Check out the Raleighs are saying how hot it is outside in the Philippines. So an additional part of the church, although we can't put a swimming pool in the church, there will be, it's not so far from where the church is to the beach. So there will be snorkels and masks available for those of you who wish to go to the beach during the season that there are no jellyfish. There's a jellyfish season where no one goes in the water. But it'll be a different type of Zen Buddhist meditation where we'll do the AOM thing underwater. And then people will be doing chanting through their snorkel, which is something that Big E is very good at, doing chanting. Although you didn't know that, Big E has a master's degree in philosophy, and some of those philosophies include Zen Buddhism. So he's going to be running the underworld dating services that connect people from foreign countries to the Philippines and vice versa. He's also going to be he's going to be stepping in for me for time to time to do marriage counseling, because his degree in the studies of the human mind, of which he has mastered also. He's a very, very masterful person, this Big E fellow. Wait till you get to meet him in person. I'm looking forward to that day myself. So he's going to be doing a lot of counseling, but I will be doing the hardcore counseling. When someone just can't deal with the fact that they broke up with their girlfriend or their wife, I will be there to say, fuck it. It's really not that important at the end of the day. You have to move on with your life. But I'm a little bit more, of course, I'll be a little bit more congenial about the whole thing. I will just say, please, don't worry about it. As my good friend, the Shish, and I can't mention his name because he'd have somebody on a plane. He'd have somebody to mention the Shish once before. One time I mentioned the Shish by first name only. This is going back to 2011. First name only, and a part of New York City where the Shiz lived, and the phone rang. And it was a guy saying, what are you doing? Going, nothing. He goes, I heard you. I hadn't heard from this guy. This is going 2001. I hadn't seen him since 1995 when I moved to Florida for the final time. I went to his house to say hello. So the Shiz, well, anyway, he goes, don't talk about the Shiz. You don't want the Shiz to get involved in your life. So I from that time on, I never mentioned even his first name. So the Shiz on his wall, if anybody out there knows the Shiz, and that would include the people from 404. And if you know 404, then you should understand it was a white building in Far Rockaway. Okay, and that's all you need to know. If you've ever been in that building, then you know the tentacles that are far-reaching in this world. So the Shiz, I spent a lot of time working for the Shiz. I was his carpenter. He'd buy a house, I'd fix it up. He'd buy another house, I'd fix it up. He'd buy a shop, and I would lay out the electric, where to put the electric for different types of commercial businesses that were going to be available in that area. Like a carpentry shop would need a certain amount of outlets every so many feet. And then I would lay out the amperage and how many outlets were necessary to build a carpentry shop. Now, a machine shop would have more outlets, so I would just work with the engineer to design what would go on inside that building. Now, if you were going to have a different type of house, a house, let's say, you needed a lot of electric, so you needed backup generators for that kind of electric. But anyway, when you got to walk into the Shiz's house, there was a picture of a choo-choo train, an actual train, and the number of the train. Now, this is how you know that I know, and I'll know that you know that I know the Shiz. Okay, so the Shiz had you walk into his house, it's straight ahead of you. The door is where I am sitting here, and 5 feet from the door, and I mean 5 feet, I don't mean 6 feet, 5 feet in front of you on the door, you saw this beautiful train, and the number of the train was 309. Okay, so when you see the train, under the train was a kind of a not poetry per se, but a thought process. And it said, "Why worry?" That was the name of the statement under the train, "Why worry?" And that's the kind of philosophy, I won't tell you why you should or shouldn't worry, but that's the kind of philosophy that I've taken in life. Why worry? So you can't do anything about the past. You can only use the past to build your future. So for those of you who don't understand this, then you should understand it. Sob, 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 sob. The girl, the dancing girl. Now, Sob Sob is a member of the Friendship, the original group of friends from Big E in Cebu, and all the other women that you'll see and that have visited to the Big E show. And now the girls, occasionally they'll come to see my shows as well. And what we have planned with Sob Sob and those other girls is we're going to meet with these women and on a private junket, let's call it a junket, that's going to be paid for in full by Big E. He's going to rent a big house, and from what I remember, all expenses are paid for all the people that are invited onto this little junket. Now, he's going to save a lot of money with me because I don't drink alcohol, but I am a little bit of a fun person once you get to know me. So Sob Sob, Chi Corsairs will probably be there, and several other women. If you want to mention that you are on your way, and there'll be several male bloggers as well. A lot of the male bloggers from the Philippines were invited. I don't know who's going or who's gonna not be able to make it. But once things open up, we have this huge vacation plan, courtesy of the Big E in Cebu, and we all plan on just having a bunch of laughs and going down to the beach, where I hear the beaches are very pretty there. Even I was offered property on the island that we'll be visiting, free of charge, with a 20-year lease if I build the hotel on that island. So now I didn't see the beach property, but I will be getting the location. There's 5 lots. They're owned by a family. So on that island, I hope to be able to go to see those lots. Now, if they're on a white sand beach, that might interest me as a secondary hotel. First, we have to build the first hotel. But then after the first hotel is built, I may want to build another hotel. And that island, called Bantayan Island, would be, from what I see, the beaches are very nice. So the 5 lots, 2 of them are owned by a friend of mine. And that friend of mine offered me the 20-year lease, no rent, if I put a building on it. And then should I finish the project and then live there or not live there, that'll be my option. But after 20 years, the property reverts back to the owner of the property. So basically, I would be investing my money into her property, but at the end of 20 years, I would make the money. Totally, I earn the money, no rent, and I earn the money on the property just so that there would be a building there 20 years from now for her children. So that's something that we have planned. And Sob is one of those people that has been invited. Now, Thomas Gruber is making a comment. I've been married for 38 years to a Filipina, and it seems like 38 minutes underwater. Oh, my God. If that's not a backhanded compliment, one of those left-handed compliments. Ah, very nice. So I'm not sure how to take that, Thomas. So we're going to say 38 minutes underwater is a beautiful thing. I haven't found any place open and the kids can't go out. All right, well, I'm not sure where that comment came. Okay, they're talking. Darren's Travels. Hello, Darren. Welcome to the Big E and Michael Fazio and the Church of Christians Plus Extravaganza, which I'll put in. I have a playlist on my homepage, the Big E Easter Extravaganza, that I put some of these videos to. So, Big E, I see, made a comment about swimming. So, let's talk about swimming. Now, I've been able to go swimming whenever I choose to go swimming here in Bohol. Now, I've seen Big E made a video with Vicky at Vicky's house in Mobile that you're not allowed to go swimming. We have no such rules here. Our only rule about swimming on the beach in Bohol is that you will not congregate, even in the water, but you can stay with their nonsensical social distancing in the water. You can stay a few meters apart. Same holds true for walking on the beach with your friends. So often I'll go to the beach and see multiple people gathering, probably as many as 4 people I've seen gathering. And even when they're on a beached craft, like a 120-foot boat that's up on the beach because they're not being used, they are keeping their distance on what would normally be a dive boat or a sailing vessel. So sailing under its own power, but I mean they're pontoon boat. That would probably be the more correct word for it. So they are keeping social distancing. I have seen the Coast Guard, and I've also seen regular on-duty police officers in shorts and sneakers on the beach, just walking down the beach and saying hello to people, not checking identification and not interfering with people, as long as where I was, the social distancing thing took place. So a lot of people are saying hello. Darren's Travel is saying hello to Check Out the Rileys, and Biggie saying what's up, buddy, to Darren, and Check Out the Rileys is saying hello, Darren, and Darren is saying hello to Honeyco, and Darren's saying hello to Sab, and Biggie Biggie, Cebu, not too good, having problems breathing past couple of days, says Darren's. Okay, Darren's mother has unfortunately acquired the coronavirus. So Darren is talking to Biggie about that, and that's very sad. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And we'll look for more comments. Maybe he can update us. He says his mom is having some breathing problems. Sorry to hear that. That's terrible. There's only just a few people in this world, Darren, that you're going to care about. And perhaps, hopefully, your mother and your father are those in that group of people. The Hapsters, they're sending love. They're sending love. Now, Mrs. Hapster has a channel, Mr. and Mrs. Hapster. I have to tell you, at 3 o'clock this morning, I'm watching the Hapsters walk down around this watered area, and she's naming, Mrs. Hapster knows the names of the flowers. Something about azalea bushes being cut. But then she busts out a move on a park bench that you wouldn't expect Mrs. Hapster to do. She, for every mile that they walk, mile, not meter, for every mile, she goes to a public bench and she bends over and I think she did 10 push-ups. I was cooking at the time. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, but that was when I was making my day's food. And she does, I think, 10 push-ups, and then she walks a little bit more, another mile, and then she does 10, I think it was 10 push-ups. But that part of the thing, I got to tell you what, and then she starts dancing, flicking her leg up in the air like Fred Astaire type stuff. But then she goes down. This is what I got to tell you, Mrs. Hapster did that. Really blew my mind. Mrs. Hapster, Mr. Hapster, myself, and other people, we actually leave the house during the day and do things. Now, the entire day yesterday was spent in the city looking for a new computer, which I'll talk about. But Mrs. Hapster actually, she actually looked at the ocean and saw that to get from where she was to the ocean, it was required for Mrs. Hapster to climb down a rock face at a 45-degree angle, probably about 14 or 15 feet, climbing down rocks to get to the ocean, which when you're a kid, you jump from one rock to another. But Mrs. Hapster and myself and many others, we have to navigate those rocks one at a time. And Mrs. Hapster made a monumental effort to get from where she was on the land to go down to the water, which 95+% of the people in this world at our age or her age would not even attempt. I would, because I'm in pretty good shape. But Mrs. Hapster going down to the water and then splashing the ocean water on her face. Imagine a blogger moving out of the blogger's house. First, she had to get out of the house. Then she got into a car with her husband. Then they drove to a beach. Imagine this, a blogger blogging. Imagine a blogger blogging about where they live. Imagine a blogger blogging where they live and then blogging about where they live and blogging about where they live and how they live and where they live and how they blog down by the ocean. So the blogger got out of the house, maybe into the car, for sure, then to the park, absolutely, and then walked around the park, for sure, then did push-ups, absolutely, and then said, look, you know, that ocean water looks good. I want to splash some water in my face. And then climb down these rocks. Now, for me, I know that would be an effort for most people. And yet, Mrs. Hapster did that. We give a big shout out to Mrs. Hapster and her wonderful channel, The Hapsters. I gotta tell you, kudos for the push-ups, but more kudos for walking down to the water, Mrs. Hapster. Thanks very much for that. I enjoyed that video. That's the kind of video I enjoy. The Hapsters, aloha, she lives in Hawaii, by the way. So actually, Mrs. Hapster, who lived in Hawaii, does videos about living in Hawaii, where I've seen people that said they lived in Hawaii that have never seen any videos of Hawaii. Why? Why, I ask you? Why? Certainly not because cams didn't exist or cell phones that did videos. Just simply the only real answer to that question is living in or on a continent and not leaving a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot area ever for any reason. It's hard to make videos of that place. Now, you could argue the point. You could make videos of the flower beds and things like that, but to live someplace and not leave the house would be not something I understand. Now, yesterday, I could tell you my itinerary for yesterday, but first we have to get back onto the comments, and then I'm going to talk to Warren. Oh, we have Super Chat, Stupid Chat. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing John Escape, who was in Kentucky at the time, right now, the Hapsters say thumbs up and loved already Mr. Fazio. Thank you, Mrs. Hapster. Big E, need to stay calm and cool. Darren's travel. Life is short. Enjoy the good things. That's the Big E philosophy. And that's the Shiz's philosophy too. Why worry? Why worry? So we have people out there that devote their entire life to trying to create drama. Now, unlike myself, who's a drama-free channel, well, not altogether drama-free. I mean, I have a little bit of drama involved in my channel, but more truth than drama. And the truth is that if you devote your entire life to nothing but nonsense and lies and deceits and half-truths, and then if that's how you wish to devote your life, you can't live without that drama. That's pretty sad, pretty sad. And then to inflict your misery onto other people, well, that's a psychological thing. That's what they call, I don't want to get involved with the actual psychological babble about the whole thing, but it's called supply. Supply. It's called supply. If you need a supply of drama, there'll always be a supply of drama. So which brings me to back to the comments. We have John escape 2 weeks well, John, I can fix that. John says it's been 2 weeks since he's been scammed. So let's talk about this. I run a legitimate scam, John, and John about a year or so ago asked me to put a list together, and I put a list together of things that he's going to send me in the ballot buy-in boxes, but apparently he needs to be further enhanced. He needs to be scammed further. So we'll get to that. So I got a new song for you, John. I'll make it up right now. Please don't forget me and remember those 3 things. Jesus said it is better for you to give to me than to receive, or the other way around. That's number 1. Number 2, the super chat button is your friend. The super chat button is your friend. Remember always. And the third thing, which is really the first thing, it is better for you to give to the Church of Christians Plus and me to receive than the other way around. So thank you, John. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for letting me scam you just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm not done with this show yet, and we're going to talk about one of the things that I wanted to put in the title is one of the things I put in the title because we see John is the funds. Okay, see. For a prayer book, oh my God, John is kicking it up a notch. 2 weeks since he was scammed. That's the first. All right, so then John Escape says, F for a prayer book. Okay, so we could pray to a fictitious God, which all gods are fictitious in nature. There's no proof of any one particular God. So let's pray to Buddha and Jesus and Allah and Muhammad and Michael Fazio. Because when you understand the philosophy of the nature of the spirit realm, and you move from normal consciousness into what is called cosmic consciousness or Buddha consciousness, you realize that you are the center of the universe. And without you, the universe wouldn't exist. But it's spiritually, it's more than that. You realize that you, as a person, as a being, as a conscious entity, are as much of the Godhead, G-O-D, 2 words, H-E-A-D, Godhead, as everybody else. Except the problem is they don't know it. So once you realize that you are part of the Godhead of the universe, then things fall into place where you understand that you make your own destiny. So John we're going to pray to all the gods. Jesus, pray to Jesus. Pray to Buddha, pray to Buddha. Pray to Allah, pray to Allah. Pray to Muhammad, pray to Muhammad. And pray, of course, to the God known as John Escape, because he's as much of the Godhead, and the God Big E in Cebu, and the God, the Hapsters, the God, the two gods over there on the island of Hawaii that do the blogs. They leave the house, they go to the beach, and check out the Rileys. The God, check out the Rileys. You guys are God too, you know that, right? You're all gods. You're gods among men. And we're going to pray to Darren's Travels, another God. He lives in America. We have Sab, another God, in the goddess in the Philippines. And we have lots of gods here. We have Thomas Grube, the God Thomas Grube. We have the God, the Big E in Cebu. Did I mention that? Well, I've mentioned it, of course, but I had to mention it twice. He takes up so much room. And I doubt very much that everybody here understands what I just said. But you should understand that from a spiritual point of view, from an enlightened point of view, something that only few people reach, once you reach enlightenment, you'll understand what I said. You may even, one of the first thoughts that you may ever come to when you reach that state of enlightenment is, wow, Fazio said this in one of his live streams. He was right. I'm God. You're God, not me. I think you're God. But you might think that I'm God. And everybody will think that everybody else is God, because from a spiritual point of view, from the highest planes of consciousness that you can achieve, you understand that even an inanimate object like this clip on here, this is also God. This clip is God, God-like, because it is created from nothingness. It's created from nothingness because it comes from an electrical impulse inside your mind. And in order to understand that, once you become enlightened, it will all instantly make sense to you that all things in the universe are God-like. The only thing that appears that it wasn't God-like was your lack of understanding about being God-like. And see, now we're going to go back to the comments. Then I'm going to talk about my new computer and some of the programs that I'm having installed in it. It's going to take a few more weeks. Plus, I can't get it from Manila. So we have a bunch of people. Check out the Rileys are saying hello to Sab. The Hapsters, hello to Sab. Sab, hello to John Escape. John Escape, he gave me $2. Okay, so John Escape, right now he doesn't feel very godlike. So what we're going to do is, John Escape sent me $2 for Super Chat. He wants me to abuse him. So let me go get the pot of abuse. I'm going to get the spatula and the pot of abuse. Well, today it's not the Church of Christians plus bang a pot, get a lot. It's the pot of abuse, the abuse pot, or an abusal pot. Could call it an abusal spittoon. We're gonna say bad things about John Escape, but he paid me $2 to say bad things about him, because that guy's not so smart, you know. So just give me about 7 seconds, and I'm going to get the spatula and the pot of abuse. So hold on. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007. Okay, so I'm back. Now, this is, of course, as you well know, this is the money pot. But this is the pot of the Church of Christians Plus. So we can use this pot for the pot of abuse, the abuse pot. So let's start by checking out the time here. It's 9:43. So we're going to abuse. John gave me $2 to abuse him. So we're going to abuse John for just $2 worth. That's $1 a minute. So I'll wait till it changes to $9.44, and I'll give him a full 2 minutes. Sometimes I go over. I don't charge extra, but I do have special rates that if you need me to say a certain thing or talk about a certain subject for $50, 50 US dollars. When you come to the Philippines, I will make a custom video for you for up to 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, you have to pay extra. Okay, so $9.44. We're gonna let me tell you a little. We're gonna abuse John. He paid me $2. He gets 2 minutes worth of abuse. Let me tell you something about John Escape. John Escape is in Kentucky right now. Okay, and everybody knows that in Kentucky, John Escape has a family that owns horses. Okay, so John Escape is not there for the horses themselves. John Escape is there because he has a girlfriend there. Her name is Brutus. And Brutus is a mule. Okay, so John went to Kentucky to be with his girlfriend Brutus, the mule. Now, John Escape, when he got to Kentucky, Brutus was actually siring some things for. He's a breeder. And John Escape went to Kentucky simply to be with Brutus. So what they did, John has a harness that he harnesses Brutus, and he takes Brutus out for these long walks in the field. And that's why John Escape goes to Kentucky, because there's the forest where this all takes place. And John and Brutus go into the forest, and on the way out into the forest, John talks to Brutus, makes the man talk to Brutus, because Brutus was working siring of the mules like Brutus. When John comes back, typically John is riding on Brutus because he can't walk so good. That's one thing that you should know about John Escape, that he's very much into his girlfriend Brutus the mule. Second thing that you should know about John Escape is an unaccomplished man. And when I say unaccomplished, the corporation that he runs in real life has literally 700 employees. And when the board of directors meet, John meets with the board of directors via a Skype conferencing type of a phone call thing. John typically doesn't say much at the meetings because he has an altered point of view. But when John speaks, they listen. And at the last meeting, they wanted to know if John Escape had something to offer the chairman of the board in regards to the business. And what did John tell the chairman of the board? John told the chairman of the board that he was nuts to think that he could reopen the business with approximately 700 employees on that particular property. And when the chairman of the board and the board of directors asked why he thought that, and John explained to him, because of social distancing. It will reduce the amount of people able to enjoy themselves on the property by 1/3. And the fact that the property runs on such a hairline margin of profit, even though the business itself takes in a lot of revenue every day, the profit margin isn't so much. So John explained to these people that they can't reopen the business. They should close the business and not try to make ends meet, because all they're going to do is dump more money into the business. Now that part after the mule part was all fiction, but the part after the mule was all true. And they disagreed with John, and they are making plans to reopen a business that runs on an 8% profit margin, 700 people, and is going to be reduced by two-thirds of the amount of people bringing revenue into the business. And John Escape will eventually be either found out to be correct or incorrect. Now, I didn't abuse him for the full 2 minutes because he really, it's only $2 that he sent me. I mean, if you want to be abused, you really, you got to pay to be abused. I wasn't really in the abusive mode today. I put you and Brutus together, Brutus the mule together, because I know how much you love horses. But of course, that was all fiction. Or was it? I don't know. No, I'm only kidding. John has a beautiful wife, Filipina, and actually quite successful woman. And John is one of the most successful people in his field. Now, the business of the horses happens to be a family business that John Escape runs. So that's the kind of people that come to my channel. They pay me to abuse them. They give me Super Chat to abuse them. They ask me to abuse them with Super Chat money. I can only just abuse. I really like John Escape, not like that, but like that. And I'm not going to, I did it last time as a courtesy. I abused them proper, but this time I could only think of the most heinous things that I could say about him and the horse, Brutus, making, man love to each other. But that's because John loves the horse loves John, I love John, I don't love the horse. So this is just the way my show goes. Anything can happen on the Hoodwinked by an Angel show. So let's go back to the show notes, and I'm going to tell you about my computer that I'm in the process of purchasing. Now, of course, you all know, we'll just ring the bell. John Escape and Brutus, they love each other. John loves horses. Horses love John. Yeah, baby. So that wasn't really that, that wasn't as abusive as I could have been. But, who knows? Maybe next time. Glad to hear that. Adding Honeyco says from the Hapsters. Dennis Darren's Travels. Hello, John Escape. Hello, brother. The Hapsters, you look so gangster, you scared me. I don't know who. Check out the Rileys. Oh, they're talking to each other. Hello, John, says John from Kentucky. Honeyco, baby, John Escape. Bless you, Honeyco. Big E. Morning, Rabbi Jubal. Rabbi Jubarker in the Philippines, baby. This is Michael Fazio. One of my past life experiences where I'll give it to you. This is Rabbi Jubarker in the Philippines, baby. And that was one of my personas that made my channel famous. The Rabbi Jubarker Show. And, of course, marriage counseling. So, the Hapsters, how's everyone doing in the Philippines? John is doing great. We have Philippines on Demand. Welcome, Bill. We are all doing well here, Bill. Everybody is doing quite well, actually. We're just having a little fun while I'm going to go to my notes here in a minute. I haven't got to the part of the title about don't kick a dog. Don't kick a dog. There could be serious ramifications if you kick your dog. I didn't get to that part yet, but I'm going to get to that part in a minute. Plus, it's just not good to kick a dog. I mean, you ever hear the expression kicking a dog when he's down? It's just not a good thing. So we'll get to that in a moment. I saw somebody do that on a beach about a week or so ago. He kicked a dog. The dogs here are pretty much small dogs. It just was an ugly thing. Brit, engineer in the Philippines, who seems to go to quite a bit of trouble. Hello, Mr. Fazio. Good morning, all. Welcome, Brit in the Philippines. Brit, engineer in the Philippines. Welcome to the show. Sob's Travels. Oh my God, the super chat. This is crazy. Oh my God, we have super chat from the Hapsters. So let's. Wow, that's an amazing thing. $3 for super chat from the Hapsters, baby. So let's see what the Hapsters had to say. Well, let's sing for the Hapsters. Mrs. Hapster, I loved your video. I actually was amazed, Mrs. Hapster, that you posted a video of doing push-ups and walking to the beach. So, Mrs. Hapster, you're the best blogger that ever lived in Hawaii. No other blogger from Hawaii has ever shown us so much. Although they talk about such, all the other bloggers that ever lived in Hawaii never got past their front gate. It makes them fools to believe they did nothing ever but hate. Mrs. Hapster, she walks. Mrs. Hapster, she talks. Mr. Hapster, he walks and he talks. Mrs. Hapster is there. Mrs. Hapster is there. Mrs. Hapster is everywhere. Mrs. Hapster, she walks to the beach. Mrs. Hapster, she knows the names of the flowers. Mrs. Hapster, she walks and walks and walks and then shows us the flowers. Mrs. Hapster is a blogger still. She'll make you smile at her will. Mrs. Hapster loves to go outdoors, and that's where Mrs. and Hapster and myself, we adores. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I did take a walk on the beach this morning at 6 o'clock. I watched the sun come up. Well, I missed the sun coming up because we have these black clouds that block our sunrise. Actually, we don't see the sun here till 10 minutes after 9 in the Philippines. Whatever is blocking. So, Mrs. Hapster, she cares. Mrs. Hapster, she shares. She's singing. I guess YouTube doesn't like my singing. So anyway, Mrs. Hapster, salamat. So we have a person who shares the love from Hawaii, as opposed to a person that never left the gate. I never saw that person pass the gate in Hawaii. Whereas when most people live someplace, they make videos about where they live. Now, of all things, it's too hot. It's too hot to go outside. Oh, God, it's April. It's too hot. Oh, my God, it's too hot to walk in the sun. Well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little story. First of all, the hotter for me, the better. Now, if there's anybody out there that wants to take a Fazio challenge, I say we have a good night's sleep. And instead of running your mouth about what a tough guy you are, and instead of running your mouth of how you can do this and you can do that, and actually you're quite the athlete. And back in the day, I was quite the. Well, let's do it now. I challenge you to the $5,000 Fazio walk. To the man that keeps telling me how fat I am and out of shape I am, to that man, and I will wager you $5,000, which is what I'm going to basically end up putting into the computer. So I'm going to wager you the computer that Warren H is buying me, plus a few $1,000s in cash, that you are not anywhere near as in good of shape as I am. So how we're going to do this is the $5,000 Fazio challenge will be that I'm going to start walking in. It's got to happen within the next few weeks because we're in April. All right, April's the hottest month in the Philippines. So here's the $5,000 Fazio challenge. Now I know you won't take it, even though you claim to be athletic, but I don't know what part of the brain that comes from. I'm not real sure what part of the brain that comes from, but if you believe that you're in better shape than me and I'm going to die of a heart attack, if you believe that, and you've said that because of my obesity and my overweight, if you've said that, I'll bet you 5,000 US dollars that I will be able to walk. We're going to walk from the BQ Mall in the city, in a crowded area. We're going to walk from the BQ Mall to the ICM Mall. That's basically 5 kilometers. But we're also going to walk from the ICM Mall back to the BQ Mall, which is 5 more kilometers. So that's a 5-mile walk. And here's the father. This is serious now. If you keep claiming how fat I am and how obese I am and how out of shape I am and that I don't ride my bicycle and all that stuff, 5,000 US dollars, I challenge you to prove that you, who have said multiple times that you're in better shape than I am because you're athletic, something like that. I'm not real sure what you're saying, because when I hear the word athletic and see certain people on YouTube, I don't think of them as athletic, not like Mrs. Haps. So here's what we're gonna walk from the BQ Mall up Garcia Boulevard, then across over to the main road by ICM, and then to the ICM Mall, to the front entrance, and we're going to turn around and go back. And that road I picked is because it's not a well-traveled road, but it does have many, 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 many mountains. But here's the kicker. I'm going to bet you, and anybody else who wants to add to that, because you have this fictitious story inside your head that I'm going to die of a massive heart attack or stroke because I'm out of shape. Anybody that wants to add to it in any way, shape, or form, then they can add to it. Now, here is the deal. If I walk there and you walk there and I walk back and you walk back, then the bet is negated. We're both athletes. But if I walk there and can't make it back or there, then you win $5,000. But you walk there, $1,000. So if we both walk from BQ, then and you get to be bragging rights, you get bragging rights that you are in the same physical shape as Michael Fazio, and Michael Fazio and you are in the same physical condition, and that Fazio is not the obese slob that you have made mention of, and or not prone to heart attacks. And actually, Michael Fazio does have the ability to walk 10 kilometers over, up and down and through and across mountains in one more caveat. The caveat is, we start this show, we'll call it won't be a race, because if all you have to do is finish, it won't be a race. We start this show at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So it will take me about an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half to walk that distance there. So it's going to be 3.5, 4 hours. Okay. But you have to get there and back. So if you can do that, which I know you can't, I know that for a fact, but if you can do it, then I will say, wow, that man is, for his age, he's an athlete. Oh boy, he's an athlete. He's a very athletic man. But if you can't do it, then you're not the man that you said you are. So that's my challenge, the $5,000 Fazio challenge. Seeing as how you've never taken any of my challenges and or offers, because many people have offered you many offers for as much as $5,000 before. Now there's a new offer on the table, and what the route is you start off at the BQ Mall and you walk up Garcia Boulevard to Garcia Park. Okay? Now, we'll walk up through the park, and you'll know that the park is a couple of acres, quite a big, beautiful park, Garcia Park. You walk up to the top of the park, and when you see the Bohol County Government Building, which is right next door to several businesses, and you when you walk out of the park, you actually walk straight up into the area between the courthouse and the Bohol County Government Building. So you make a left. When you see the courthouse, you make a left and you go to the main road again. And then when you get to the main road, you make a right. Then you'll go over another mountain. This is up about 100 feet of elevation. Then you'll go down about 150 feet of elevation. Then you get to the bottom. There's a fork in the road. You make a left. Okay, and you go to the as far as you can on that road to the end. It's just one big S-turn. And when you get to the main road, you make a right, and then you go to the Q Hotel, you make a left, you go to the front of the mall. And then you come back the same way. So when you want to take this challenge, that's the map. I gave you a little bit of a map. If you want to see what the route is and see what the terrain, if you have an all-terrain map, or you have the ability to, I'm betting you $5,000 that you can't back up what your mouth keeps saying on YouTube, that you're in better shape and I'm out of shape and I can't walk this and I can't do that. Now, if you don't make it, you owe me $5,000. If I don't complete the walk, I owe you $5,000. You have to complete the walk. Okay, if we both make it, then we're both top athletes for our age. But here's what I think. I think your mouth is overstepping the boundaries of what your physical abilities are. I think your mouth has overstepped the boundaries of what you believe you're capable of. And I don't believe you're telling the truth about being as athletic as you think that you are. Now, if you are that athletic, you will take my $5,000 challenge. Now, if you don't take the challenge, there's there won't be any angst or animosity towards you. Just the only thing that will happen if you don't take the $5,000 Fazio challenge is everyone will know that you are afraid to be proven wrong. You're afraid to be proven wrong. You're afraid that that fat guy from Bohol, the fat man who doesn't ride his bicycle, the fat guy that doesn't swim, the obese guy that eats too much cheese and salami, you're afraid that that obese guy, the fat guy that you've been probably said, the fat guy, the obese guy, the loser, this, that. You've probably said that, I don't know, 100 times in the last few months. So why don't you just prove what a man you really are and take the $5,000 Fazio challenge, okay? And then that settles everything, all things, all of everything that you ever said before about being in shape, and all of everything you ever said before about me being out of shape, all that you ever said that I don't walk anywhere, all that you ever said that I don't exercise, all that you ever said has to be true if I can't walk a lousy 10 kilometers. A lousy 10 kilometers. I could do that with 1 liter of water. No problem. 1 liter of water. You can take as much water as you want, but typically on that walk that I have done in the past, I will drink less than 1 liter of water. So I'll just water up at the watering hole before I leave. I'll just I'll down about about 1 liter of water. So I probably will take 2 liters with me, but I don't need any more than that. So all of your stories about being Michael Fazio's fat, Michael Fazio's obese, Michael Fazio's overweight, Michael Fazio's out of shape, Michael Fazio doesn't walk, Michael Fazio doesn't ride his bike, Michael Fazio doesn't swim, all of that will now be negated because you and Michael Fazio will be top athletes for middle-aged men. All of that. So you'll have bragging rights that you are as in good a shape as Michael Fazio, and I'll have bragging rights that I'm in as good a shape as you. However, I don't think you'll take the challenge. And I don't think you're up to it for a multitude of reasons. One, as we are back. I know that I have, oh my God, don't kick my dog either. Holy macaroni, I'm looking at the screen. I was looking at the wrong screen. I see colors, flashing colors on my screen. There are blues and greens, and now yellow. And talking about yellow, we'll end this topic on I believe that you're a coward. I believe you're a coward with a big mouth that can't keep any of his, I think your mouth is writing checks that your body can't cash. That's what I think. By you telling me that I am fat, obese, out of shape, don't swim and don't bicycle, you're telling me that I can't do this 10-kilometer thing. So here's your chance to win 5,000 U.S. subscribers. We're going to have to... This is amazing. This is amazing. I see. Oh, man. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. This is freaking amazing. There was... Oh... Oh, oh, man, am I upset? There was Vincent Michaels. Welcome to the machine, Vincent Michaels. Ah, boy. There's a super chat in here that I just saw that I can't pull it up on my main screen, and I can't see it on my tablet. This is wonderful. Ah, Big E says, why don't they leave the compound, Bishop? They're afraid. They're afraid. I don't know. Perhaps they were picked on as children when they walked around where they lived. I couldn't tell you. It's psychologically speaking. I'm trying to think of anybody I knew that was afraid to walk around New York City when we were children. I know people now. See, when I went to school, I got on 2 buses. Well, I was never afraid to walk around New York at night. So no matter where I had to go do a job, dressed and ready to go. Whatever ready meant, I mean, if I had to take a car, I would take a car. If I was doing an estimate in Harlem, which was a pretty tough neighborhood at the time, I would probably want to do the estimate in the morning, and I'd probably take the train. Because in Harlem, they would, if I had a work truck or a car, and it could get stripped in just a few minutes. So I would take the train, and then when and if I did a job in Harlem, I would have to keep one man, usually hard body, Jimmy Ennis. Usually he would stay in the truck. He was a Marine, and he was a pretty cool guy, and he knew how to deal with people from the street. So I never had a problem with anybody robbing my truck, as long as I kept somebody like Jimmy or Johnny Mac in the truck. So why are they afraid to leave the compound in Hawaii? I can't even imagine a reason why you would be afraid to walk outside the gates and show people. You know, Hawaii is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. So why would you be afraid to walk around in a neighborhood that's pretty much predominantly middle class to upper class for the whole time that you lived in Hawaii? Why? I don't know. Some sort of paranoia. Something happens to people during the course of their life that gives them different phobias. For instance, I've heard of bloggers in the Philippines that won't leave the house unless they're with somebody else. I don't understand that. I don't understand why a person is afraid to be alone. I've been alone for months at a time. When I brought my barge from Michigan to New York, I spent 3 months on a barge alone, tying lines and untying lines. And getting fuel in different docks and sleeping in places like the Detroit River and in and around Detroit. I would just park the barge and sleep. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Do I worry about people coming on the barge at night? Not really. Not much you could do. Had I ever been afraid of where I was alone on my barge when I brought the barge from Traverse City, Michigan, to the Lake St. Clair, then down the Detroit Straits, across the Lake Erie, and then to the Erie Barge Canal? Nope, never. In fact, the most fun thing that ever happened to me when I was making that trip by myself. Now I had a captain for a couple of weeks, and he really wasn't a captain at all. Let's just call it like that. So I left Traverse City, Michigan. This is the only time that I ever worried about where I was, and only because of an actual physical real life troll that lived under a bridge. And so this Captain Bob, that was his name, he brings me from Traverse City, Michigan, and we're going to go port in Port Austin, and he ran me aground. So when he ran me aground on a rock, on the rocks, I had to do about a month of repairs. So when I hit the shore, I paid him, and he was gone. So he was on the barge for about a week. Then there was another guy who I met in Port Austin, and a younger fella, and all he liked to do all day was smoke cigarettes. And when I would tell him to go make the lines, furl up the lines on the deck, he got upset. So when we got to this place called Alpena, Michigan, it's where Bobby Powell lives. Bobby Powell, the YouTube personality, Bobby Powell lives. So when we got to Alpena, I gotta tell you, I was with this Captain Bob, and we went into a bar. This was the only time I had any paranoid at all, and it turned out to be the greatest party that I had in all the months I spent on the barge. We had the biggest party. We had, oh God, it was fun. So we walk into this bar, and it's a local place, Alpena, Michigan. At the time, I don't know what the townsfolk, how many people were in the town, a couple of hundred. There wasn't a lot of people in Alpena. So Bob and we ordered, I don't think I was drinking, but he ordered a beer, and we sat at the table, and they were giving us looks. No, that don't bother me. I come from New York. You can look at me all you want. But Bob got a little paranoid. So he goes, I'm leaving. I said, okay. So he went back to the barge. So I stayed. It was a bar. I stayed for the show. And I walk into the bathroom, and there's three big men, real husky, tall, well-built young men, probably in their mid-30s. And I was 30, in my 30s too. I was 33. And a short man, about maybe my height, 5'7", around there. And his name was Toby. He's the only man I know. So I'm in the bathroom and using the urinal, and they were smoking pot. And I looked at them, and I don't care that they were smoking pot. What didn't bother me, that they're in their hometown, in their bar, in their place of residence, where they grew up. And why would I care if they were doing that? So one of them said to me, and he goes, does it bother you that we're doing this? I said, no, it doesn't bother me. I don't care if you eat that shit. He goes, do you want some? I said, no, I don't smoke pot. And with that, I walked outside to the table where I was sitting. So they came outside, all, in a group. They were done doing what they were doing, and they sat at the table. And Toby looks at me, goes, I like you. And I'm going, dude, man, I'm not gay. And he goes, no, I don't mean like you like that. He goes, you're in a strange place, in a strange land, in a bathroom with guys that are staring at you, worrying about whether or not you're going to call the police on them for smoking pot. And you don't care. And I said, why would I care? He goes, that's why I like you, so I'm going to buy you a drink. So he bought me a beer, and I did. At that point, I had a drink, had a Heineken. Well, by the time the night was over, I had a few more beers, and it was morning, because the bar had no real time limit. It was like 4:30 in the morning. Toby and the other men, whose name I don't remember, they decide it would be a good idea to go back to my barge, which was parked at the Coal, C-O-A-L, the coal dock in the channel of Alpena, Michigan. Now, Alpena is a small town where they have a cardboard, not a cardboard, a hardboard. Those old hardboards, paneling places. They make products out of hard-pressed sawdust with an epoxy resin in there. So he decided it's a good idea to go back to my barge with the men and a few girls and have a party at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. And they got whatever food they got from the bar. Apparently they all know each other, and a couple of cases of beer. And we went back to the barge, and Bob was sleeping in the pilot house up on top. And he's going, what are you doing? Those guys are going to kill you and take your money. And I'm going, because in 1988, everything was cash. There was no credit cards. And I'm going, yeah? So what's the problem? If they kill me, then I don't have to worry about anything. And if they don't kill me, we're going to have a party. That party lasted, well, just a few more hours. But then when we woke up, there were steaks, hamburgers, and frankfurters, and a barbecue on the barge. And that party was for that night. And then the next day, I was going to depart to the next port, which I did. So that was the only time I was ever paranoid in my entire life about going into a strange bar. And because it was a redneck bar. It was an Alpena bar when there wasn't anybody. I was from New York. Bob was from Michigan. He probably fit in more than me. But paranoia is not part of my repertoire of things. But so to answer Big E's question, something happened, or certain things happen to certain people that they become paranoid about life, about living life, especially about doing things alone. Now, like I said, I would go do estimates in New York, Harlem, Bronx, Brooklyn, or anywhere. By myself, I'd go out and do the estimates. But here is why I really should have been paranoid when I did those things, is because sometimes people would give me large sums of money. At the time, I mean, even $10,000 would be a large sum of money back in 1980, let's say. And they would give me a lot more than that to go to start a job. And of course, I'd sign a contract, but I would have this large sum of money. I'd have to worry about walking out of the house and getting robbed. I never did. It never fazed me in the least. So for me, maybe because of how I grew up and the people I grew up with, paranoia is just not part of my makeup. But other people, to answer Big E's question, other people, something happened to them in their childhood or their upbringing. Or maybe they were coddled children, like they were just kept from living a full life. When I went to school, I went to aviation. It was an hour and 15 minutes, 2 buses or a bus and a train, or 2 trains. Okay, so they were coddled children, and their makeup, psychologically, their makeup just made them more paranoid. Or you could say, I don't think the right word would be weak, mentally weak, but they're afraid of living life to its fullest. So that negates or moves into the realm of where you live and what you do when you're living there. I get up in the morning. Yesterday, By 3:30 in the morning, I had already made a decision to go to the city. By 6 o'clock, I prepared food at 3:30. By 6 o'clock, my foods were done, my coffee was done, and I walked from my house, just because I choose this place, about 3.2 kilometers away from my house. At 6 o'clock, I left my house. No, excuse me. The 6 o'clock bell on the church went off, and I was almost there. So I guess I left my house at 20 to 6 in the morning, 5:40. Now I'm walking down the streets in the Philippines. Now, it was light out, and all I get are hellos and good mornings, Mike, from people I don't even know who they are, because now everybody has a mask on. Gives me a reason not to recognize them. Although I'm friends with everybody, I just don't know who they are behind the mask. So by 10 after 6, I got to where I could get one of two jeepneys heading to the city. And I do so. And now I'm in the city, and I walk around the market, the wet market, alone in the market to get pineapple. I am the only white person in the market. I am only one of 2 or 3 people shopping in the market. Everybody else is in the market that's working there. Am I paranoid? There are no lights. The lights are off. Whatever available sunlight is lighting the place up, except for the fish, where they had some fresh crabs and fresh snails. I don't get paranoid about that. And by the way, I have enough money in my pocket where some people might consider it a large enough amount of money. It's just enough for me to go shopping for the day, but I'm not paranoid. And everybody in there, I say hello to, and they say hello back. I'm not going to get paranoid, but I'm not afraid to go out of the house alone. Now, I've heard stories where other people only will go out of the house if they have somebody to go out of the house with. They won't even go out of the house with a dog. For some reason, they feel it necessary for human friendship or human companionship to leave the house. Now, why? I'm not a psychologist, but I can't tell you why that is. All I can tell you is that I've noticed that there are people that are afraid to leave the house for something happened, in my opinion, something happened to those people from early on in childhood. I don't know. I wouldn't make a guess, because that would be just a guess, but some traumatic experience happened when that child left his house that has prevented him from leaving the house without a companion to this day. So, I've never met anybody like that. Even people that I know my whole life, I don't know anybody like that. I've only experienced that. And there are videos to attest to that fact, that a particular person only likes to leave the house with companionship. Why? I don't know. My only summation of the situation is that, and I'm not a psychologist, but my only way to describe why I would think that people are afraid to leave the house without another physical human being with them is paranoia, and the only possible thing that I could think about is a traumatic experience. Could be anything. Could have been the person fell down and was unable to get back up, and they were they needed assistance and they didn't have assistance. I don't know what traumatic experience the person experienced, but I will say that I think something traumatic, terribly traumatic, happened to this person, and that's why they're afraid to leave the house alone. Now, I wouldn't guess as to what it was. Like I said, could have fallen off a bicycle and maybe broke a leg and couldn't walk, and there was nobody around, and they sat on the ground for an hour or 2 hours before help came. It could be anything like that. But paranoia is part of a particular blogger's persona, and he's made no bones about it. He's also said that he doesn't like to leave the house alone. But I would not be as boisterous to say why. Not like that blogger constantly saying, I don't swim. Michael Fazio doesn't swim. Michael Fazio doesn't walk kilometers. Michael Fazio doesn't ride his bike. All I'm saying is that here is your opportunity to win $5,000 and bragging rights that you are in better shape than my... Oh, so if you win the walk there and back, then you get bragging rights that you're in better shape than Michael Fazio. You don't win any money, though, if I make it back and forth. If I win, then I get bragging rights that I'm in better shape than you, but we're both athletes. But if you lose and you can't make the trip, and very much so I believe you won't make it halfway back because of two things. One, I don't think that physically you're capable of making that type of a trip, number one. Number two, you've made it clear that you don't like the heat, and it's going to be hot. We're going to start at 12. I think at best we could be back to the BQ Mall by 3:30, thereabouts. It's all right. Well, we are back to no watching my live stream. All right, I'm going to continue the live stream anyway. Oh boy, we have Scott Del Fuego. I don't know why I should continue. Scott Del Fuego says, when a pandemic, P-L-A-N-E-D, N-N-E-D, excuse me, when a pandemic strikes, the New World Order corrupt regimes and entities beyond my imagination team up to take my last vestiges of freedom and control my every move. I want Michael Fazio to tell the truth. Well, we can do that, Scott. We can do that. So, oh yeah, you know one thing I wanted to say. All right, so we're going to get off the topic of cowards and being cowardly if you don't take the Fazio challenge, because not a lot of people would take that challenge. So I wouldn't hold it against you. I wouldn't call you a coward, but what I would ask your mouth when it comes to making fun of my weight and whether or not I smoke cigarettes, it's really all immaterial. When the bottom line is, I'm wagering you $5,000 to take the Fazio challenge and win bragging rights. Now, if we go to do the trip and one of us falters on the way there or back, then the $5,000 is earned and is accepted or given. But if we both go there and come back, we're just excellent athletes for our age. So what I suggest you do is I suggest you bring $5,000 with you in U.S. currency or pesos, because you're going to owe me $5,000. Because what I believe is that you can't make that trip. I don't believe that you're physically capable, although your mouth keeps running and running and running and running like the Energizer Buddy, that what great shape and how your athletic prowess lets you do power walks and stuff like that and this, that, and the other thing. I think that's all subterfuge. So I want you to think about the $5,000 Fazio challenge and bragging rights, where let's say I have a massive heart attack and or stroke on the way back. You win. You take the money, you get to laugh, that you would be the type of person to laugh about something like that, because that's just the type of person you are. Everybody knows this. So Scott Fuego says, when a plan, all right, so we're going to move on to the computer now, and we're going to move on to Warren H. coming home. And then when a pandemic strikes, the New World Order corrupt regimes and entities beyond my imagination team up to take my last vestiges of freedom and control my every move. I want Michael. Apparently, it resumed. I literally took the motor like 3 inches away from the tablet itself. So we've covered what I believe to be the problem with a person that's afraid to leave the house, and that some traumatic experience occurred in child's lifetime that doesn't allow them to leave their personal premises. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but that would be my best guess. So now we have Timothy Starr. Timothy Starr is a man who has posted a $10 super chat saying that he does not kick his dogs either, or kick a dog either. So we want to give a shout out to Timothy Starr. Timothy Starr gets the Bang a Pot, Make a Lot award for today for the high roller of the day, Timothy Starr. Thank you, Timothy Starr. Thank you, Timothy Starr. You have made my day. You have made me earn my pay. Thank you, Timothy Starr. No one knows who you are, Timothy Starr, but we thank you from afar. If you live in the Philippines, I'd love to sit down and have a hamburger with you, Timothy Starr.